Hey folks, welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana, and I'm also a close to my heart maker, and I'm currently working through the 31-day sketch challenge for March by Christy's Beautiful Life. And I'm going to get this out of the way and show you the sketch that I'm currently working on. I'm a little behind, so this is day 9. This sketch was created by Sarah Davies. This is a really fun sketch. It only holds 2 photos, which is fine. And it's another nice and clean, simple sketch. But it leaves a lot of opportunity to do some fun things with. So when I looked at this sketch, I immediately thought of mixed media because there's a lot of extra room on the paper to add to it. So I'm thinking I'm going to do mixed media. We'll see what happens. But let me bring in my photos and we'll see kind of what I'm thinking so far. So these are the photos that I'm going to use. This is my husband and I, and these are decorative hearts. And back in May of last year, I live in Kansas City, the KC, and the city commissioned several artists to paint these hearts on a volunteer basis, and they were donated to the city. And there's all kinds of things that represent Kansas City. So this, you can see, is the city skyline on the back side. And then the front side is similar skyline view with the KC on it. But we had baseball ones, football ones, things that represent Kansas City barbecue, Kansas City Monarchs, and baseball legends, and just you name it. We had hundreds of them. And so we would go out heart hunting and take photos of all of the different hearts. There were over 500. I think I got maybe 100 that I got to go see. So that's kind of the history of these pictures. And this is kind of the layout that I think I'm going to use. So I have a lot of room left on the page once I get this laid out that I think I might add some mixed media. So let me get this out of the way. I'm going to go think about what I want to do with that, and we'll come back and get started. Okay, like I mentioned, I'm going to do some mixed media with this page. So I'm bringing in my all-purpose mat and my white base sheet. I'm also bringing in some supplies I'm going to use. My Distress Oxide Inks, my water, a baggie, and a baby wipe. So I'm putting my ink on the all-purpose mat, and then I'm going to give it a little spritz with the water. This technique is called smooshing. So I'm using that plastic bag. I'm just putting my fingers inside. I'm kind of smooshing around the water and the ink together. And then I'm going to tap that into my base page. It does dry pretty quick, so I want to make sure I get it right in the right spots. And when I do this, I like to make sure my fingers are together. If I spread them out, I'm going to get like a little handprint. So that's my little hack tip for you when doing this technique. And I'm kind of eyeballing where I think that space needs to be to fill in that white space so it will peek out from all the different papers and circles that I have planned for the layout. So I'm going to clean up my mess here, and we'll get that out of the way and then bring in my Versamat so I can work on it like I normally do. Now I'll bring in my papers for the dry fit. I'm going to cross my fingers that everything's going to line up okay here with where I've put that Distress Oxide Inks. As far as the paper goes, I'm holding fairly true to the actual sketch. So I'm going to lay everything out here. It looks like it's working out really well with my Distress Oxide Inks. I did have to try it a couple of times with some other colors until I found that the yellow was the perfect color that I wanted to use. And you'll notice these white stars I'm putting down. Now these are really old from my stash, and they are dimensional elements that we used to sell, and I have a ton of them, so I wanted to use them up. So I have a marker that I may pull in to color those in if I decide that I want to use black for those. So we'll wait and see. So now I've got everything dry fit down, and I want to start thinking about embellishing. And I have this sticker sheet that actually coordinated with that paper packet, And then I have some arrows and pieces on the die cut sheet. So I'm going to start pulling out pieces from the sticker sheet and putting them on foam tape, because as you guys know, I love to get my things popped up and have lots of dimension. And my guest presenter, of course, is popping into play here. So please ignore her getting in the way. But as I pop these up, I'm picking out little sentiments that I think are going to work well with the photos and the layout. And the colors work perfectly because they match the paper packet. So some of them are saying things like, I feel so lucky, sweetheart, this is it, full hearts, and me time, and just getting those popped up. And then once I have them all out and popped up, I'll think about arranging them where I want them on the layout. So now I'm going to kind of place them where I want them and do some dry fitting and make sure that I get them spaced out where I want them spaced out. I'm also thinking about, while I'm doing this, the color of each item and coordinating the colors with the different spots on the layout. So if that's important to you, that's something you might want to think about when you go through this process as well. And in the end, I end up moving those two on the bottom left so that all of my clustering kind of stays towards the center of everything is kind of in the center. So I still have my little visual triangle, but it's all closer together, kind of pulled in, if you will. So now I have my little black die cut pieces, and I'm following this suggestion from the sketch with these little arrow pieces pointing inwards. There'll be some pointing in from the bottom right and from the top left. I'm using my favorite tweezers just to help poke those out and get those in place, and then I'll of course use my wonderful Barely Art glue to put those down. So I think that that's really all I want to use out of this piece. I'm just kind of auditioning to make sure. And I find a couple more arrows that I want to tie in just to keep more of that black element pulling in as well, since I have the black star. So I'm going to put those on as well. So we'll get those glued down real quick. And that really is going to wrap up, I think, the majority of the page once I get those wrapped down. And I was really happy how that Distress Oxide just peeks out from behind everything, I think, pretty perfectly. So we'll get those glued down, and I think that's going to wrap everything up. I may take one more quick look at my sticker sheet to make sure there's nothing else that I want on here. But I do decide at the very end I want to bring in my doodling pen, and I'm going to just close out this page by kind of wrapping it all in together and doing my journal lines on the outside of the layout page. And that's something that I don't typically do to my pages as often as I do to cards and other projects. So I'm bringing in my 0.3, I think, journaling pen, and I'm just going to go around, of course, all four sides. And you'll see that I'm bringing my arm down and my wrist is staying very straight. So I'm basically pulling that down using my shoulder rather than my elbow, and that's helping keep the lines pretty straight. So I'm going to wrap that up, and that will finish out this page. And we'll come back and take one final look. Okay, the layout is finished, and I'm going to hold it up here a little bit more so you can see this texture in the mixed media here with the Distress Oxides. I have a couple things popped up. I didn't embellish quite as much as I normally do. At least I don't think I did. I did at the very last minute come back in and add a small title here for KC Hearts, Kansas City Hearts. And yeah, so let me pull in the original sketch and we'll just compare a little bit. So I think I held really true to this sketch. I even, you know, these things were really inspired by the sketch. The clusters were inspired by the sketch. So I really held true to this sketch. I really liked and enjoyed this sketch. Although it took me several times to get happy with the coloring and everything on my Distress Oxides, but it was well worth the patience and working with that. But super happy with how it turned out. So I hope you like it, and if you did, please hit that like button, of course, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please consider doing that. I really appreciate it if you would. And I will be continuing on throughout the month with this particular series, and I invite you to come back and watch some more of those challenge sketches throughout the month of March. And until then, we will see you soon. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.